Hey up everyone, Magpie Gaming here. I hope you're all doing well. So continuing on with the Starfield news, I have a bit more news to share with you today. So in this video we're going to look at the hardware requirements on the PC for Starfield as detailed by AMD, and also take a look at the promotion that AMD are running with the game, which is then basically including the game with select hardware. So the hardware partnership, as I spoke about in a previous video, may seem an odd one to some people, but these things have, in PC gaming at least, been around for a long time. Many people will remember the splash screens that we used to get at the start of PC games from manufacturers such as Intel, Nvidia and indeed AMD, and they basically denote that the game has had some involvement from one of those companies in order to ensure it works and supports their hardware to the best of its ability. But just as a side note though, as some people seem to have got a little bit confused with this, it does not mean that the game won't work on rival hardware. Starfield will run just fine on Nvidia graphics cards and Intel CPUs. Intel GPUs, I don't know, I really have no information on them, but I would assume you'll get some performance out of them, but I really can't tell what performance that would be. So in the case of Starfield, AMD techs have been working on the code of the game along with the developers to make sure that FSR is implemented perfectly in the game. And of course this means it will run best with their hardware. Again though, that doesn't mean it won't run just fine on Intel and Nvidia hardware. In fairness, the hardware partnership is a bit of a gimmick, a little bit of marketing spin to help push the game and of course help push AMD's hardware. Recently AMD released their version of the system requirements, and of course this only shows their hardware for the requirements and does not show equivalent hardware from Intel or Nvidia, but I do have some, so I'll show them soon. But first we're going to look at the AMD list. Now they've decided to give the different resolutions names in this case, so starting with Heroic, which is for 1080p gaming, which I think the vast majority of people will be gaming in anyway. They've listed a Ryzen 5 7600 for the CPU and a Radeon RX 7600 for the GPU. For the Epic experience, which is for 1440p resolution, they recommend a Ryzen 7 7700X and a Radeon RX 6800 GPU. And for the Legendary experience, or 4K as the rest of us will call it, they are recommending a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D and a Radeon RX 7900 XT GPU. Now it's been noted by some people that the hardware seems on the heavy side, which some have translated into the game not being optimized very well and needing to rely on pure CPU and GPU grunt to look and or play well, which is a fair point of view given recent buggy and unoptimized PC releases that we have had. But at the same time, this could be a marketing ploy from AMD to simply get people interested in their hardware. Take your pick from one of those options or leave your own in the comment section down below. Now I haven't found any info on a like for like comparison between the three tiers of AMD's recommendations, but there are however minimum and recommended specs that have been published with Intel and Nvidia users in mind, so we can take a look at them now. It's worth noting that regardless of what hardware you have, some specs remain the same, so you will need Windows 10 or higher to play the game, 16 gigs of RAM, a broadband internet connection, DirectX 12 and an SSD with 125 gigs of space on. So the minimum requirements, we have a Ryzen 5 2600X or the equivalent Intel Core i7 6800K, and for a GPU we have the Radeon RX 5700 or the Nvidia 2070 Ti. And for the recommended specs, we have a Ryzen 5 3600X or an Intel i5 10600K, and for the GPU we have the Radeon 6800 XT or an RTX 2080. So from my point of view, the recommended hardware is fairly mid-tier, so if you're running anything above that you should get good performance out of the game. Of course this is going to depend on how well optimized the game is on the PC, so keep your fingers crossed that it is very well optimized. Next up we're going to look at the hardware promotion which AMD are currently running with Bethesda. This is bundling select editions of the game with select hardware. On screen now you can see the hardware list and what game edition goes with that hardware. So the top end CPUs and GPUs will bag you the premium edition of the game, and the mid-tier hardware will get you the standard edition of the game. This is, as far as I'm aware, a global promotion, but it is worth checking in your region if it applies. I do know that it is running in both the UK and the US. Indeed, I've checked on Newegg and the promotion is on, and I've also checked on Scan's website here in the UK, which shows it to be running, and overclockers.co.uk have an entire page dedicated to the promotion. I'll put a link in the description down below for you guys to that. And that pretty much wraps things up for the system requirements for the game and the AMD promotion. As I say, keep your fingers crossed for release date on the PC. We really don't need this game to be an optimized mess. Why can I not say that word? Unoptimized. There we go. So I'm really hoping for a good release on this this game. As I say, PC releases lately, especially the very big ones, have been a buggy mess. I think Diablo 4 was the only one of recent memory where it's launched in a pretty good state, you know, a AAA title. I'm hoping that this launches very well for us. I know that having the AMD text on it skews things slightly to the AMD, but I'm sure it will work just fine on AMD Nvidia cards. I will find out on day one anyway, because I'm on a 4070, so I will be giving it a good performance review on that day. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the Starfield content, please do consider a subscribe. It really does help me out. Even a like or a comment on the video really helps with that YouTube algorithm. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.